and welcome to the Flame and Fiber podcast. My name is Barbara. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Diva S, and this is episode 58. And this is my second podiversary. Well, the 12th was my second podiversary. It's the 20th of September 2018 now. But actually, I think of the 10th as my podiversary because that's when I actually recorded my first podcast. But it took me 2 days to figure out how to get it on YouTube and start a YouTube channel. So YouTube thinks I started on September 12th, and so I guess YouTube knows because it doesn't care when I recorded my video. I'm drinking fizzy water. We have a soda stream which fizzes up water for us, and that's what I'm drinking. It is a Thursday afternoon, and I will confess that am I going to do my podcast today or not? I wasn't sure if I was going to do it because I looked terrible. My hair was, I needed a shower and my hair looked terrible. And then Dennis said he was going to go out and work in the yard today. And I said, oh, well, I'm going to have to do my podcast because I hate working in the yard. Our house looks so terrible this year. I have hardly pulled a weed. We have tall grass in our flower beds. I understand why people love to garden, and I really enjoy looking at people's yards and gardens who've kept them nice and thought about them, and I get it, and I can understand why it would be a really enticing hobby. I get it. Because you're outside, and if you have lovely weather, that's nice to be outside and a good excuse to be outside and to watch things grow and make things beautiful. I get that. But I get that same thing by sitting on my deck and knitting. I get the calmness, I get the joy of something beautiful emerging, and I get to be outside. I'd rather do that. So anyway, I'm doing my podcast today, even though I was a little iffy this morning. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow, maybe I'll do it today. And then when he said he was going to work in the yard, I'm like, oh no, I got to do my podcast. Thank you guys for keeping me out of the yard one more day. I planted 3 plants this year. I planted some mint. I planted a peppermint, a spearmint, and a chocolate mint plant. We have this corner of a bed that's never had really anything in it. It's always been very weedy. So I got the weeds out of it and I planted my 3 plants. And this was it was at an appropriate time for planting in the spring. So it was probably April or May probably. And I got some mint a couple of times because when we were in Amsterdam a few years ago, I kept ordering mint tea, and it was basically stems of fresh mint in a tall mug with hot water poured over it, and I loved it, and I wanted to have mint so that I could make that here. And I did it a couple times this summer, but I never pulled any more weeds after I planted those plants. Until yesterday. Now it's in the backyard, so I can't fuss with it too much, or Pearl comes to help me, and she's not any help at all. So when Dennis took her for her afternoon walk, I take her for her morning walk. When Dennis took her for her afternoon walk, I went out and tried to see if I had any mint left, and I found one mint plant that seems like it might survive, and another one, I pulled some things that looked dead, and but I could smell the mint when I pulled them. I'm like, okay, that's from one of my mint plants. So that was not the most successful planting of the year, but if you're not going to weed, then what do you expect? Except people told me, oh, be careful where you plant mint, it'll spread like weeds and it'll take over everything. Well, it didn't take over my real weeds, and I was very disappointed in it. I thought, oh good, it's going to take over and I don't have to worry about it. Well, apparently I did. Maybe I should have planted 17 plants. I don't know. I only planted 3. I'll plant more next year. Our plan now is to be home more next year, and until we decide, oh wait, we want to, you know, we have a big trip planned in May, and we plan to go to Florida a few times, but maybe I'll feel a little bit more like waiting next year. Not gonna happen. I don't know why I even pretend. I'm not gonna feel like waiting. So anyway, so that's 6 minutes in to tell you I'm doing my podcast today. And it's my second podiversary. And so I will be doing a second podiversary giveaway. And I don't know what the prize is, and I'll tell you why that is when I get to my talk about my vacation at the Outer Banks in North Carolina, because I wanted to get something from the Knitting Addiction, which is the yarn shop on, it's now in Kitty Hawk, I think, on the Outer Banks, that started me with my knitting habit, my knitting passion, because I wanted to learn how to knit so I could own that gorgeous yarn. So while I'm worried about spending too much money on yarn, it doesn't bother me to own a lot of yarn. And this is not anywhere near all my yarn, because I love the yarn, and I apparently am a yarn collector. And this knitting hobby of mine is really 2 hobbies. One is collecting yarn, and the other, and tools, and the other one is the actual knitting. And so I was going to go to Knitting Addiction to get the prize for the second anniversary of the podcast, which I thought was very appropriate. But I wasn't able to go to Knitting Addiction, so I cannot show you what the prize will be because I haven't figured that out yet. But I will start a thread for the giveaway for my second podiversary, because I do expect to have something from Knitting Addiction, and I'll tell you why in the next few weeks. So please let me know if you're at all interested in, it'll be a skein of yarn and a little something, and I don't know what the yarn is, so maybe you don't want a surprise, and I can understand that. People like to know what they're getting into. Please let me know. I'll start a thread and let me know how you found the podcast. I'm very curious how people come across podcasts. I mostly find new podcasts either because other podcasters have mentioned them or they have come up in my suggestions. But I was wondering if you found me some other way, or if you heard about me on a podcast, which podcast was it, if you can remember. I know some of you have been watching for a long time. Thank you, thank you. And if you don't want to say that, then I would like some suggestions on what you would like to see more of in this podcast, or maybe less of in this podcast, or add something or take something away. What could I do to make this podcast a little more interesting for you? I'm not promising I'm going to do it. I'll be honest with you, because this is my hobby. But if there's something I'm doing that's making you crazy, I did try to edit out the ums from last time. I didn't get them all, but oh my gosh, they were driving me crazy while I was editing. So I started editing out ums, but that was a huge task, so I don't think I'm going to be doing that. I just need to try not to say it so much. But anyway, if you if you are interested in being eligible for the unknown second podiversary prize, please go to that thread on Ravelry, in the Ravelry group. Be a member of the group, please. Be a member of the group anyway. Our group is so lovely. The people are so lovely. And check out the Year of the Sweater KAL finished objects. OMG, these sweaters are so gorgeous, and I will be doing a drawing for a prize from that thread soon, but not today because I'm not that prepared. So, second podiversary. So I wanted to tell you about that. Dennis and I went to the Outer Banks, which is why I thought I was going to get a prize from Knitting Addiction, because I go there every time. But Hurricane Florence had the same idea, and I guess she booked in for the same week that we did. So we went on Saturday. The Saturday after Labor Day. But knowing that it didn't look good for us, the path that she was looking like she was taking, she was heading straight to the Carolinas. But we were booked in, we couldn't get our money back. And we thought, these things change and we're going to go. So we went on Saturday, and I did several of the things that I had on my list to do. I swam in the pool. I had a procedure on one of the veins in my right leg. And so I was wearing a compression stocking, which I have been for the whole summer. And especially that week because I had the procedure, so it was a little sore, so I had to wear it. But I could be in the pool as much as I wanted because apparently the pressure of the water is almost the same as the sock. So I was in the pool on Sunday, which was fun, and I did my walking. I did everything I was supposed to do. And we played some games and we visited, and it was lovely. And then we had a mandatory evacuation on Tuesday. So we left Tuesday morning. So got there Saturday night and we left Tuesday morning. So we had 2 full days. And we were sad, but it was so much sadder to see what Florence was doing to the Carolinas. And if you were in her path, I hope you are doing well. Dennis has 2 cousins who live in North Carolina. One was with us, and she was heading into Raleigh, Durham. She lives in Durham, which, Florence was headed right there. And his other cousin lives in Fayetteville, which got totally slammed. I mean, she was posting on Facebook saying, when she had electricity, she said, I feel like I'm watching about a foreign country, watching the roadway that's just a river. There was a video from one of the news agencies on I-40, and it had a drone that went along, and you could see it was a highway, and the further it went, the less obvious it was a highway, till it looked like it was just a river. It looked like a river. Crazy. So I hope those of you in the path of Florence who did not live in Pennsylvania and were not able to just go someplace else, I hope you are okay. And my heart goes out to you because that was brutal, really brutal. So we left, and we were sad to leave because we enjoy our week in North Carolina, but we were not going to, endanger ourselves or make complications for the people who were on the Outer Banks, who live there and have to figure out how to keep everybody safe. I mean, there's no point in us making their jobs harder. So we left, and we didn't even have any traffic, which surprised us. We thought we were going to be kind of in bumper to bumper, but the problem was it was a gorgeous, gorgeous day Tuesday, and Wednesday was supposed to be gorgeous too. And then Florence was coming, and it's very likely that people waited an extra day because, you paid. But our landlord asked us to leave. They had to bring all the chairs in and do what they could to batten down the hatches at the house. So we did as we were requested, and we left on Tuesday. So Knitting Addiction is closed on Sunday and Monday, which were the 2 days we were there. So I did not get to go to Knitting Addiction. The other thing I didn't get a pedicure, which I was planning on doing. So my nails look terrible, but since that's my toes, you don't have to see them, and I'm not showing you. But the other thing I didn't get to do, which was so disappointing, is it turns out I found out from my aunt, Dennis's aunt, that there's a place called Biscuits and Porn on the Outer Banks. And I think it's in Kitty Hawk. It might be in Kill Devil Hills. It's probably Kill Devil Hills. And it's called Biscuits and Porn, and apparently it has great biscuits. And you go in the left-hand door and you get biscuits, and if you go in the right-hand door, you can get porn. And I wanted to get a picture of that for Instagram and for you guys and tell you all about biscuits and porn. Well, but I really was planning on only telling you about the biscuits. And so I was supposed to go with Dennis's aunt for breakfast one day, and it turns out that this place is right next to the grocery store we go to all the time. And so they went to the grocery store and said, oh, there it is. And they had breakfast without me, so I did not get to go to Biscuits and Porn, and then we had to leave. So those are my regrets. I did not get a chance to go to Knitting Addiction either. But the good news is my mother-in-law, who organizes this, I don't think she's organizing it next year, but who has been organizing this, got an email from the realtor saying the owner felt really bad for us, that we had to evacuate and that we did not get to stay hardly at all for our week. And they offered us the week of October 6th if we wanted the house for free. Wasn't that nice? And the thing that makes it even nicer, I mean, how could it be nicer? But we actually canceled this house for next year and told them we weren't going to be able to take it next year because we didn't have enough people. This is a huge house. It has 13 bedrooms and 12 full baths. And we filled it last year, but several people who came last year could not come this year. We did not fill it this year. And, you know, so some of us had to pay extra to cover the cost. And so we are not taking this house again next year, and we let the realtor know that. And they still offered us a free week, which I thought was just really lovely. So it turns out that over half of us can go because, well, we're all retired. There's only Dennis's cousin Karen is not retired, and she was the first one who said, I'm there, I'm going. She's the one who lives in Durham. She actually has a job. The rest of us are all retired or not working a regular job. So we're very disappointed his aunt and uncle can't come, the one who I wanted to go to Biscuits and Porn with. They can't come back because they're going to be someplace else. A couple other people aren't coming. But quite a few of us are, and since the house is free and we have so many rooms, we're like opening it up to people who maybe couldn't afford to come during the normal week. But since it's free and we have rooms, we're just telling everybody in the family, you know, if you want to come, come. So I will have a chance to get the prize at Knitting Addiction. We can't leave until Monday night. Because I'm having another procedure on my veins on Monday. But we're going to go and have a couple more days. It is going to make for a very busy, make the month even busier than it already was. I have about a week now that's calm. I think I'm going to go visit my parents on Monday, and we have plans with friends on Wednesday. But very calm week, and then it's all hell breaks loose because I'm going to Florida for a few days to see my granddaughters and my son and daughter-in-law. Let's face it, I'm going to see the granddaughters. They know. They're not surprised. But I, saw them in July, and we're not planning on seeing them till Thanksgiving, so I wasn't waiting that long. So I'm going for a couple of days, and I get back on the Saturday that the OBX house is available. But then that Monday I have a procedure, so we're not going till Monday night. So we'll have 4 days in this house, and it'll be lovely. And then we come back on Saturday, and then the Tuesday after that, Connie from Chili Knits and her husband Danny are coming to stay with us a couple of days because that's the week before Rhinebeck. And Connie has a trunk show I think in Rhinebeck. I'm not sure. I'm sure she'll be talking about it on her podcast and giving you information. But so she's got to be there a little early. And she does something with the Needles Up people too. I'm not sure. I don't know that her yarn is. I don't think her yarn is at Needles Up, but I think she is. And then she's going to have a trunk show so that you'll be able to see her and her yarn in Rhinebeck. And so look out for that. But anyway, so she and Danny are staying with us for a couple days. So we'll maybe go to Philadelphia, or we'll show them around more around Chester County, whatever they want to do, we can do that for a couple of days. And I think they're leaving Thursday morning. I have a couple things I have to do on Thursday, and then Friday evening we fly to London to start our big vacation. So it's going to be a crazy, crazy month, and it's all amazing, and it's all wonderful, and I'm very excited. I'm very excited. I got my Guide to London book because we were going to be in London for 3 full days, so we'll have plenty of time to do some stuff, and that'll be fun. But it makes I'm going to take this week and try to straighten up the house a little bit because we're having company. I guess I'll talk about some knitting. What do you say? I'm wearing my Ravelry. Nope, I was just going to say my bra strap's not showing. It is a little bit, but I got a new bra. Maybe I shouldn't talk about that in public, but I got a new bra that I am very happy with. If you're the kind of person that I am or was, and according to YouTube, I do not have very many male viewers, so if you guys don't want to hear about this, you can go forward a little bit. But I, take my bra off at the first opportunity, and, I found this bra, Knix. It's called Knix. Love, love, love. Very comfortable. Wear it all day. Don't hesitate to put it on in the morning, even though I'm just walking the dog. I used to not put a bra on to walk the dog because I couldn't stand it. And I wear it all day, every day, and I don't take it off before I go to bed. So anyway, and it has smaller straps, which means that I don't have to put the tape on this that I was putting on previously. So that's fun. So anyway, TMI, I suppose, but this is my Ravelry that I really love. Laura Eisenkalb is I'm pretty sure I'm putting it down there. I'm pretty sure that's her name, is the designer, and I have made two of these. And it's the only sweater I've made 2 of. So that's what I am wearing. But I have a finished object, which you never saw. I cast this on. This is the Midas hat by, let's see, Laura Reinbach. And I cast this on a couple days after my last podcast because I wanted to have some nice stockinette knitting to do while we were in the Outer Banks, because I was going to be with a house full of people and I wanted to make sure that I had something that I could just sit in it. So I started it and finished it since my last podcast. And so the construction of this is you start with a provisional cast on and you knit stockinette for however many inches this is. And then you knit a purl bump. And then you knit the exact same amount of stockinette. And when you get to the place where it's nice and flat and works, then you take out your provisional cast on and you knit 2 stitches together as you're going along so that now it's connected and there's nothing to sew. And I would put this on, except that I fixed my hair. I don't want to. This yarn is yarn that I bought at Knitting Addiction last year, I think. Oh, I have some ends to weave in. I guess I'm not quite finished. And it's from Shalimar. It's the Breathless yarn from Shalimar. And it's in the color Bungalow colorway. So I'm trying to put this back. Back on the guy's head. I was knitting this in Kitty Hawk, which is where our house is this year, and realized that I have never made anything for my father-in-law, so I offered it to him and he accepted and was bragging that that's for me, so that was nice. So this is for him. His name is Garland, and he's 101, so he will be warm. He will be warm with this hat. And I really am very happy with how it turned out. That gives you a good idea of the yarn. Really very, very excited. I have quite a bit of that left, so that's going to end up in my swap packages. Look for this yarn, ladies. I have 3 people that I'm swapping with for Advent. So I hope you like blue, because one of your days is going to be blue. So that's the Midas hat. I really, really like it. So, but that's my only finished object. I did not work on my socks at all. I was worried that getting to the heel and those flippy flop needles might be a barrier. I had no urge to work on that sock. So I might change the needles and see if that helps, because I really do want to try a heel flap and gusset again. I haven't done that in a long time. But I did not work on it. The thing that surprised me that I worked on was my portage cardigan. I hadn't done much with my portage cardigan for a while because I was working on the never-ending back. See that honeycomb? That's made by 1x1 left and right cross cables. It's like the whole thing is cabled. Luckily they're 1x1, so you don't need a cable needle. But I had, and this is what it looks like. And it's by Melissa Shashwari. And this is the sweater that I tried on the tasting room at SSK, and like the one that Laura said looked good on everybody. So I picked it up yesterday, day before yesterday probably, and that's where I was, right there. And now, hallelujah, I am out of the waffly pattern, which is made by those 1x1, and I'm in the ribbing at the bottom, and I only have about another inch of ribbing to do. And then I will be done with the body of this cardigan. Now, I tore back quite a ways, and I don't know what the heck's wrong with this right there, but I think it must be okay. It's fine. I'm not tearing it out. And I knew I had made a mistake across a row, actually across right here where that, and I tore it back. I had to tear it all the way back to here anyway. I did that so I could fix it because I wanted it. After looking at it on the podcast, I realized it would bother me. And so I did tear it back and start over. And I think I talked to you about that. I love the way this looks, this back. I love the way it feels. It is so squishy. This yarn is the Cloudborn Alpaca Wool Silk in the DK weight in the Prism colorway. And I'm very happy with it. I hope it holds up. It's probably, it doesn't have a lot of wool in it. It mostly has alpaca, so it's going to stretch. So I hope I love it. It'll be a squishy wear at home sweater no matter what happens to it, that's for sure. I really, really like this texture. I love the way it feels. I like the way it looks. It's just not my favorite to knit, I will admit. So I'm very close to binding off, and I'm going to be, the pattern says it should be a tubular bind off, which I've never done. So I'll be looking that up before I get started. But I worked on this and I got past the part that I was dreading, so that was a big plus. So now, after I bind off the body, then I'll pick it up around and do a lot of going around the neckline and down, and then making the pockets and then the sleeves. So I feel like I've really made some progress on this, and I really am happy with how it feels. It seems like it's going to fit me. So I'm very excited to get past that back, even though I do really love the way it looks, I have to say. The next thing on my list, I've been working on my mother's sweater. And it's the Campside Cardi by Alicia Plummer. And I have the body done. And this was such a fun knit. This may be the second sweater that I knit two of, because I may knit myself one of these. It's just eyelet lace details, getting more and more of them as you go down. So it's a lovely, easy knit. This yarn is so amazing. It is 25% Angora Rabbit and 60% merino and 15% silk. And it's from the Twisted Yarn and Fiber Bags and Notions. This is from her rabbits. I bought that at the Allentown Fiber Festival, and I was not able to find them online anywhere, so she must just sell at festivals. But anyway, I stopped working on this once I finished this body, because I'm planning on going to visit my parents next week, and I want my mom to try it on before I go any further. The one thing about this, though, is you get rabbit fur everywhere. And I was knitting this when I was a little sweaty. So that was kind of, oh, but she's going to love this. It is so soft and squishy, and I hope it fits her. Although, if I have to start over and make her a bigger one or a smaller one, it wouldn't be the end of the world. I probably wouldn't need to make her a smaller one. If I need to make her a bigger, because it's so much fun to knit with, and I enjoyed it so much, it wouldn't kill me, because I do love to knit. And I have this in my Fat Squirrel Hega bag, because it's the year of the sweater. I bought myself some sweater bags. So that's the second sweater that I'm working on, although I had stopped working on that by the time I picked up my Portage. The name just went out of my mind. And my last work in progress that I am working on is something else I cast on since I spoke to you last. It is the In the Light shawl. This is a garter stitch shawl with fringe. And Chevy Rell is knitting this and having a knit along with another podcast that I'm not remembering. And so I'm knitting along. I realized I loved the shawl that she had, and I realized I wanted fringe in my life. So I cast this on thinking this was going to be another relatively straightforward pattern to knit while I was in the Outer Banks. Like I said, I expected to be there longer than 2 days. And here I am. I am just getting ready to... Nope. I am just at the second color. There's the first color. And then you fade in a second color, and I'm at the point where my second color is being knit all by itself, and I would have to check to see it. I may be done with it being knit all by itself. This is two strands of fingering the whole way, so it is a very squishy, wonderful shawl. Let me tell you about my yarns. My original idea about this was going to be that I was going to do this. I had gotten 3 skeins of stranded yarn to make a 3-color shawl while I was at SSK, and I thought this will be perfect to be my SSK shawl. And I am not finding, shoot. I'm not finding the tag for my 3rd yarn, because it turned out, so my 3 yarns that I was going to use were these 3 stranded colors. This color is called Eraser. And you can see it has some little tiny dots of color. But when I started this shawl, it was too subtle. It looked like it was a completely white or cream colored swath of cloth. It didn't, you couldn't see, the specks are so small, and this is garter, and it just hid so many of the specks. So I ended up changing it, and so I got this, which is the same idea, but there's quite a bit more color in it. And this is Backyard Fiberworks. And I in the seed colorway, but I don't know where the tag is. But this is Backyard Fiberworks sock in the seed colorway. And that's color number 1, which I'm done with, except for the fringe. The second color is, these two colors are stranded. This is, and they're both the MCN, and this is the color Meddlesome, and this is the color Shiner. I love that Shiner. And so I haven't started with any of the Shiner yet. I don't know why I have so much unwound in my bag. So right now I'm doing 2 strands of the Meddlesome. And then I will have 1 strand of each for a while, and then it'll be all Shiner, 2 strands at a time for the end, and then I'll do my fringe. It's a very cool way to do fringe. I've never done a fringe actually anyway, so I'm assuming this isn't the typical way, but it's a fun process. So this is my In the Light for the In the Light KAL. And it is so squishy and warm. I'm a little concerned that it might not be as big as I want it to be when I'm done. I don't know. I'm finding that I want a shawl like this. It's so squishy. I want it to keep me warm. And I have been discovering, I have my Find Your Fade next to my chair downstairs when I get chilly, because I get chilly in air conditioning. And the other day I was so chilly I had to go get a sweater on because the shawl wasn't, it's a huge long thing, but if your arms are cold, it's hard to wrap it in such a way that your arms are covered because of the shape of the shawl. So I'm not finding it to be particularly warm. So I was hoping that this one, although my roulotte shawl is warmer because it's a different shape, and I think that's better. But I was kind of hoping that this one would, because it's so squishy and it's a DK weight because it's fingering held double. So this is, the other 2 colors are Stranded Dye Works in the Paradise base, and one is Meddlesome and one is Shiner. And this is a 80-10-10 Superwash Merino Nylon Cashmere. So it's got a little bit of cashmere in it. And these are really lovely yarns. I'm enjoying it. This is the first stranded Dye Works yarn that I have knit with, and I am enjoying it a lot. It's a beautiful yarn, and it's so much fun to knit. So those are what I've been working on. I haven't worked on my sock, as I said, so. And when I was digging around, I found a KAL that I had started. I think it's in camel or yak, and it's camel colored. And I thought, oh, I should go back to working on that. But I just found it, and I haven't started working on that. So I did buy some yarn. I need to unfollow the woolly thistle. Because I listen to all these, podcasts from Great Britain, and they have these wonderful yarns, which I've never seen and sound good in any way. The woolly thistle sells them. So I bought Blacker Yarns Tamar 4-ply, which is their fingering weight. 4-ply is fingering. the Luster Blend in the color Travella. And I'm not sure what Luster Blend means. Oh, but it's pure wool. So it's long. Some of them are long, and I don't actually, rats, I wish I had paid closer attention. Nope. Pay closer attention to see what the wools were, because it was interesting. There's quite a few wools in here, but it's a lovely yarn. It's going to be a beautiful sweater. I bought a sweater's quantity, and it's a beautiful purple color, and the color is called Travella, Trevella, Tamor Luster Blend. So I bought a sweater's quantity of that since I saw you last. Well, you know, I'm trying not to spend so much money, and I haven't. I didn't spend my whole allowance this month. That is amazing. It's been a long time. So, I do have some future knitting that I'm planning to do. The lovely Linda in our group was so kind to give me the Shawl Society 3 from Helen Stewart. It's a series of 6 patterns, and I think this is the 4th one. Might be the 5th one, I'm not sure. None of the other patterns have really grabbed me, although that's not unusual for me. I need to go to the threads for those and see other people's versions of the shawls. I sometimes am not crazy about her color combinations and things like that, so if I see other people's, maybe I don't have a good imagination. But I look at it and say, eh. So I haven't been entranced by any of the previous ones, but this came out yesterday or today, and it's called Learning to Cry. And this is a pattern similar to one that Andrea Mowry did, where you're combining fingering weight with mohair lace weight to make these stripes of color. Now, I don't have this in color, but you can see the pattern. Now, I bought enough to make the Andrea Mowry pattern, whose name I'm not remembering now. So I have more yarn than I need because her pattern took 2 of these. This is the Lady of Shalott, and I got this at SSK as well, and it's Once Upon a Corgi. And so this is the penny base, which is 80-10-10 merino cashmere nylon, and then this is the kid mohair silk lace weight. And they're both the same colorway, but of course they take the color differently, and it's called the Lady of Shalott. I mean, how can you resist the Lady of Shalott? The curse has come upon us, cried the Lady of Shalott. So I think I'm going to make this pattern. I'm going to do Alias by Isabel Kramer, and I don't know what happened to my pattern, and I didn't want to print it out till I had looked for it, but I hadn't really looked for it yet. But I think I'm probably going to do it out of the John Arbon yarn that I bought from the Woolly Thistle a few months ago. It's a DK pattern, and it's a nice cardigan that buttons with cable down the sides, and it's with a very squishy, nice high collar. So I want to make it with yarn that I want to have next to my skin, which I have several that I love, but I won't be able to wear them without a turtleneck, and I don't want to do that. I am going to make a Midas hat for myself, and I have not picked the yarn for that. And the other thing I'm going to make, I have had a request from Dennis to make him some Frankenfingers. This is a pattern that I saw Amy Beth from the Fat Squirrel Speaks podcast is knitting these for her husband, and he saw them, and my husband saw them and say, hey, because he gets cold in his office 5 times a year. When it's really cold out and I have a fire, as I love to have sit and knit in front of the fire. But the thermostat for our house is in the same room as the fireplace. And that's intentional because it was on the other side of the wall, which is Dennis's office. The house is a colonial, so it was supposed to be the formal living room. We're not formal people. We don't have a formal living room. So his office is full to the brim with computer equipment, which gives off a lot of heat. So what was happening was I was freezing cold all the time because in the summertime that, you know, his room was warm because of the computer equipment, and so the air conditioning was going all the time, and I'm sitting in my room going, oh. I mean, you could, back in the day when I was playing poker online, you could have taken a picture of me sitting there playing poker and you wouldn't know if it was winter or summer because I was sitting there with a hoodie with my hood up. And I was playing online, so I didn't have to like cover up all, you know, my poker towels or anything like that. I wore a hoodie with the hood up 12 months a year, practically, because then in the winter, his equipment was warming up the house, and so the heat didn't go on. So when we were doing some work in the house, we had that changed, and it just, you know, switched over and was facing the other way because it's a joining wall. And so now the heat is determined based on the room I sit in rather than the room he sits in. So that's a very long story to say that in the coldest days of winter, when I have a fire, the rest of the house gets chilly, which, you know, I don't want Dennis to be cold, don't get me wrong. I made him a sweater and he wears it on those days. But I love going to bed in a cold room where I have the covers piled high on me, you know. So I'm not sad when I, you know, leave my fire and go to bed and my room's all cold and I have to have lots of covers. So that's good. But there are 4 or 5 days a year where his room gets cold enough that his hands are cold. So he's asked me to make him some Frankenfingers for the 5 days in the sun, in the wintertime when his hands get chilly. And I thought, he hasn't asked for many things. He has 1 pair of socks that he wears when he sleeps in the winter when his feet gets cold. He has a couple hats I knit him and a sweater. So it's about time that I make him something he wants, and he would like Frankenfingers. Now this is designed to use self-striping sock yarn, but I do not have that much self-striping sock yarn, so this will work just as well with any kind of fingering weight yarn, and it will be perfect, and he will have warm fingers on those days when I have a roaring fire and I'm comfy and cozy. I am looking forward to having a roaring fire soon, I must say. But I need to pick some yarn out for that. I'm going to make myself a Midas hat, I think. And I might make one for Dennis too. I made him a cashmere hat 2 years ago out of some cashmere I got at Vogue Knitting Live that New York that I went to a year and a half ago. And it's not very tight on his head, and so he would like it a little tighter. So I'm thinking about just taking it apart and re-knitting it. But meanwhile, I think the Midas hat will work really well for him because mainly, you know, he always turns it up, but he doesn't want a slouchy hat. So he wouldn't want a slouchy hat. So he would probably end up turning it up 1 more time, which would leave a not very slouchy hat and a triple layer around the ears, which would suit him very well, I think. So I think I will be making him a Midas hat, and anything that can use some of the lovely, gorgeous sock weight yarn that I have. And most of my yarn is 80-20 wool nylon, so it's pretty warm. And I have some MCNs and things in there too that would be lovely. And I have some colors that I think he would like. So that would be fun. So that's my future knitting. So if you're interested in this unknown skein of yarn that I'm going to be buying in a couple of weeks when we go back to the Outer Banks, I just thought that was so lovely of the owner of the house, and especially since we had already decided we weren't going to take it again next year. This is the second year we've been at this house, and it's a lovely house. And people are sad because they really like the house. It's got good parking. It's a really nice house, but we can't fill it anymore. People have just gone on, and people have to commit a year in advance, and a lot of people are not ready to do that, and I don't blame them, but I don't want to pay extra because people back out anymore. So we're looking for a smaller house, and so that's one of the things we will do while we're down there. So anyway, it was very nice of them to do this, even knowing we weren't coming back. I thought that was very sweet, and we really, really appreciate it. So, I don't think I have forgotten anything. I will be sending my Advent exchanges when I get back from Egypt, so it will be at the end of November, but I've been working on it. I'll be having things organized and be ready to kind of put things together and send them. So everybody should get theirs by December 1st, by November 30th or before, way before. So don't worry. I promise I'll send them. And I hope everybody was able to find a way to get a Advent swap if they wanted one. And I guess I'll stop talking now because I've run out of things to say. I could talk. I could keep talking, and I probably will. But anyway, I don't see anything in my notes. I am hoping to go to Biscuits and Porn, so you get the update on that. I may not go on the porn side. In fact, it's highly unlikely, but I can look through the window. Anyway, I hope you have lots and lots of time to do the... I forgot to say welcome. Too late for that now. Welcome. Thank you for sticking with me all the way. So to say thank you for all the notes and messages, and I hope you enjoyed this podcast. And welcome. Because you are very welcome, and I'm very glad you're here. Thank you so much. And I hope you have lots and lots of time to do the crafting that brings you joy. And I will make a big effort to do another podcast before we go to London. So I hope everything works out for you, and I hope if we're in the path of Florence that you are recovering and it wasn't too bad. And I am so sorry. Bye.